So if someone asked me what my favorite kind of video to do is, I would tell them this. I do MMA. I do, influencer stuff. I do all kinds of stuff. But when Rogan has Aaron Rodgers on and they discuss Jimmy Kimmel and the widespread mainstream media's reaction to the pandemic and how everyone got exposed by the pandemic of exactly who they are. Like, you got to see exactly who everyone is during the pandemic. Did they stay in California? Did they tell everybody, you need to put on your mask? Or were they someone who was so far the other way that they fled to another state, like us? What did they do with their platform? Did they sell out? So on, so forth, etc. We're going to talk about that in this video because Rogan talks about it with Aaron Rodgers, another person who really put their foot down during those years. And he's talking about Jimmy Kimmel in this one. And what they're going to talk about just in advance is they're going to talk about whether or not Aaron Rodgers would have a conversation with Jimmy Kimmel. And Rogan goes off, son. He's mad, dude. When Rogan is mad, it is very, very fun to react to what he's talking about because you get the best version of him. He's not being careful. He's saying exactly what he thinks, and I can certainly relate to that. So we're going to jump into that right now. If you enjoy my rant about his rant, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you like the look of my jib, you can do it now. But why don't you like this video if you support the things that these guys say, because I do as well, and you are among friends. All right, so let's get into this thing. This is Rogan and Aaron Rodgers talking about whether or not Aaron Rodgers would have a conversation with Jimmy Kimmel after the things that Jimmy Kimmel said about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, this was all in response to Aaron Rodgers making a very innocuous joke about Jimmy Kimmel and the Epstein client list or something, and Jimmy Kimmel got all bent out of shape. So they're talking about whether or not Aaron would sit down and have a conversation with Jimmy Kimmel. So let's watch.
Well, that was the Kimmel thing, right?
Well, no.
Did you ever talk to that dude? Have you ever talked to him?
I've been on the show years ago. Yeah.
Would you ever have a conversation with him in person?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, they wanted me to be on his show in the summertime after I got traded.
Really?
There, obviously been some things that he had said about me that made me go, I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather, maybe have a side conversation first, iron some things out.
Well, also, I don't think that conversation is a conversation that should be held in front of an audience in 5-minute chunks.
Think about that, dude. Think about the Jimmy Kimmel environment versus this, right? Versus this. You sit down for as many hours as it takes to hash something out. Two men across from each other, microphones, and they just talk. Versus applause. Like, literally, think about how ludicrous that is right out of the gate. Think about how ludicrous the environment that Jimmy Kimmel and these late night shows are in. It's absurd. You have a bunch of clapping seals, okay? Like, I always talk about that in terms of, I'm talking about like the population that just believes everything that they're just like force fed through mainstream media. I'm like, they're like a bunch of clapping seals. Okay, well, these are like actually human clapping seals. They sit in a seat. They pay, they got a ticket to be there. And then their signs say laugh or clap. And they literally laugh or clap based on a neon sign telling them to do what they want them to do. It's absurd. Okay. You gonna have a real conversation under those circumstances? No.
Like they do on television.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that you have to let air out. I want to know why you think the way you think. Him, sit down with Jimmy. Why do you think the way you think? Why would you think that it's okay to say that it's a real simple thing? The people that have been vaccinated, you treat them. And the people that took horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy. Really? Is that really how you feel? Like people that are sick from a disease that was created in a fucking lab that was funded by our own tax dollars? That's how you feel like? Those people should just die because they don't trust the government or they don't trust the pharmaceutical industrial complex.
Now, there's a lot more to this video, and I have now come back to edit this in to make sure I get this particular thought out in response to what Rogan just said. Have you actually considered how evil a thing like that is to say if you're Jimmy Kimmel? Like, think about the fact that Jimmy Kimmel said that with all of the information that we have now. Think about that, okay? Jimmy Kimmel, with his ignorant, completely ill-informed, nonsensical, greedy, garbage pail kid brain, said on national television to an enormous audience, got them on board with the idea that because someone who had clearly done more research than them, because now we have the benefit of hindsight and we know that what they were saying, people like Aaron Rodgers, they were right in most cases. Jimmy Kimmel got people on board with not treating them at the hospital when they were sick. Like, don't give them treatment, let them die. It's so insane. How is this any different than what led to really terrible things in history where lots of people got killed? Like, if anyone actually entertained the idea that you should let someone die because they didn't take that thing, when you think about what we know about it now, which is what we knew then, there was plenty of reason for people to be concerned that we're not irrational. And Jimmy Kimmel was getting people on board with letting them die. Letting them die. And people were on board with that. Anything that someone says in mainstream media, people just start parroting it. Think about that. You're doing that for money? You're doing that for a paycheck, dude? You trash bag. That guy could come back and literally, there's nothing that Jimmy Kimmel could ever do where I'd be like, that guy's cool. Not that he would care about me, but like, in your little woke circle of people who tell you you're awesome, you step outside that bubble, you are trash. In the actual world of humanity, you are garbage. You need to know that, Jimmy Kimmel. Like, these guys are a lot nicer than me. I want you to know, if you were to happen to see this, that your contribution to society during that period was to convince half the world that they would be justified to let the other half die. Good for you, dude.
That's been responsible for lying so many fucking times. They're literally criminal organizations that have some of the biggest criminal fines in the history of this country. Yeah. And that all of a sudden, they're the ones we're supposed to trust. The liberals were always the ones that were anti-big pharma. They were always the ones that had no trust in
anti-big
big government.
Banks.
Yeah, anti-big banks, all that. And then all of a sudden...
Anti-war.
Yeah, all of a sudden the ideology shifts because so many people are compromised by this very thing that we were talking about before. The very thing that they use to control the media in terms of the news, they use it to control the media in terms of late night talk shows and monologues as well. It's the same influence.
100% accurate. Exactly the same thing. You get someone a huge paycheck that they rely on and they get used to the lifestyle, and I don't care what your name is, you can put most people in that situation and they're going to find a way to believe the thing that they want you to believe. Because guess what? When you're incentivized heavily to have an opinion one way or the other, you can walk your way into it. You can talk your way into it, dude. You know what I mean? That's why you have to have so much respect for people who walk away from big paychecks if it goes against their principles. And like Jimmy Kimmel, these guys have no soul, dude. They have no soul. Okay? Or they're so stupid. They are actually so stupid that they don't deserve your respect anyway. Think about it, dude. Like, these guys, if someone went backstage and said to him, you know what we really need you to do is we need you to start defending Epstein. Just start saying, like, listen, you don't know what kind of good this guy was doing for the country. You really don't know, man. You got to think about it. I understand it's a little touchy subject, but I want you to actually think about the reality of how the world works. There are very powerful people who you need to keep in check because they can cause the world a lot of damage. And if you don't have the ability to control them any other way, if you get compromising information on them, then guess what? You can tell them what to do, and it's all for the greater good. So seriously, think about that, Jimmy, before you start hammering on Epstein, when in reality, the guy might be an American hero. If you really think, a global hero. If you think about it through that lens, you have no idea what good this guy was probably doing by compromising these billionaires. He's like, oh, all right, you know what? That actually kind of makes sense. Yeah, man. I'm telling you as someone in the intelligence agencies that, like, this guy was saving the world. All right. Okay, I can get behind that. I'm going to go defend him. He's like, yeah. He's like, wait a minute, but what was he doing? He's like, don't think about that. Don't think about that. I'm just serious. Like, what were his methods or whatever? I said, don't think about that, Jimmy. Don't ask questions like that. You don't want to know. You don't want to know the way the world really works. He's all, you're right. You're right. They put up neon signs. They're all, stop talking, Jimmy. Stop asking questions, Jimmy. Because these fucking SEALs, that's how their brains work. It's like, dude, you just put up a neon sign. Clap now, Jimmy. He's all, yeah, don't ask about children getting trafficked. Don't think about that, dude. Just go up there and say the thing that we want you to say. Fucking, sorry.
Because they're the same sponsors. The same people are spending the same money on the same networks. And it has an impact. If it affects your livelihood and affects your future and your ability to do this thing that you love doing, which is hosting a talk show, and you're doing it on a network that is paid for by that money, guess what? That affects you. And if you don't think it affects you, look what they did with the #1 guy on TV news, Tucker Carlson. They fired him. He was the #1 guy. And they're like, you're getting too crazy.
Yeah. And by too crazy, what they meant, what happened to Rogan's face, dude? Hang on, let me just get him out of that face.
Why was
There you go. Yeah, I mean, that literally, like, think about this. Cable news is dying, okay? Dying. And you want to know why you know? That's the biggest giveaway of all time, that what you are told is not what reality is, okay? Everyone thinks that the mainstream media exists to run like any other business, right? Mainstream media must run like every other business. It's about money. It's about generating eyeballs in order to sell advertising space, so on, so forth, etc. Okay, well, you have one person who is far and away the most successful person at doing exactly that, at getting eyeballs so people will watch your show and they can sell advertising space. It's not even close. Tucker's destroying everyone, right? But Tucker started saying some things that didn't jive with the actual goal of mainstream media, which is to control the population and make them think what you want them to think. He starts talking about January 6th. He starts talking about the stuff they're talking about here with the jab and all these other things, institutional control and the way that they've affected society based on lies, like just outright lies. And he starts exposing them. He's like, hey, you guys remember the QAnon Viking or whatever, QAnon shaman? Remember that guy? He's doing 4 years in prison right now. Did you know that? And here's a video you might want to take a look at. Here are, people at the Capitol who are leading him around. They're like, here, you want to check this out? I remember when January 6th first happened, there was this picture of like a half a dozen photographers who were taking pictures of him as he's walking around through the hallway. I thought he had to be a plant, That should have been very concerning to him, given that he wasn't, it looks like. That should have been extremely concerning. Why are all these people taking pictures of me? Am I supposed to be in here? What the hell is going on? He's getting led around. He leads a prayer in that room. And Tucker's like, why is this guy in jail? And they released him immediately. You guys remember? They literally released the QAnon shaman immediately. You want to talk about dead giveaways? Like absolutely ridiculous dead giveaways of psyops? How about that? When in the history of American justice has new evidence come out and a person just gets insta-released? Okay, if you know anything about the justice system, there's all kinds of times where there's been just like overt evidence. They're like, oh man, we got this wrong. And it takes years, if ever, to get a guy out of jail. And something this public, the only explanation is they knew that they juked it from the beginning. At least my opinion. I can't verify this, but the only way I know how to read this is they knew that they had juked it from the beginning and they got caught. And they were like, oh shit, get him out. If we don't get him out, they're going to start talking about this much more. Get him out, man. Get him out. And so they got him out. You know what I mean? They got him out. And by the way, if you've never thought about that and you forgot, I asked you at the beginning, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like this video if you think like I do. So they let him out. They just let him out. January 6th, like probably the most aggressive and important anti-big guy psyop when has there been a psyop like that? A domestic psyop like that? Okay. And then Ray Epps. Give me a break, dude. Ray Epps. I still to this day have people who will tell me that Ray Epps had his life ruined by the right. I'm like, dude, you really need to expand your sources of information badly. Okay. Because if you tell me a thing like that, you want to know what you're saying? You whatever you think you're saying, you think that you're like, yeah, man, he had his life destroyed. All you're saying to me is I am completely ill-informed. I don't know anything. Like if I don't know the fact that Ray Epps is a plant, I don't know anything. Anyone who knows anything knows that. Anyway, let's continue. Sorry.
Is he wearing that outfit? Is there an explanation for why Klaus Schwab was dressed up?
I think he was on Epstein's island.
Was he? No, he probably has his own island.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably under the ocean.
Sorry, I'm not accusing Mr.
Anyway.
Klaus Schwab of being on Epstein's Island.
Why did you bring up Jimmy Kimmel when that whole thing was going on?
I had said on the McAfee show before, they had talked about, forever they talked about releasing the Epstein list
Right.
or whatever. And I had said that on the show, and he had got on his show and called me a tinfoil hat wearing, doofus who is talking about, I thought he had said.
Can I just say one thing? The tinfoil hat thing is like a badge of honor now. You know what I mean? Honestly, because you want to know what's crazy about that actually is they don't say that about lunatic people anymore. Like people who will literally go out on, I'm sorry, Bryce Mitchell. I'm just going to use flat earth as an example, but like about flat earthers, they just say that guy's a flat earther. Okay. They just say like that guy's a flat earther. Tinfoil hat. That's what they say about people now who are like circling the drain of exactly what's real. It's like, oh, here's what's real. And they're like, oh, here it is. They're all, oh, fuck. They're all, that guy's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. It's so dumb. Like they can't possibly take the weight out of these words any better. It's like what they call far right, right? Anyone who disagrees with them is now far right. Remember what far right used to mean? You know what I mean? Like I remember far right used to mean like someone who had a pipe and was like putting, things that go like this into them and they were going to hide it somewhere really scary. I remember that was far right. Now far right is Joe Rogan, who supported Bernie Sanders in the 2020 election. That's far right. How is that far right? They're all, well, we don't like people listening to his opinions about what people should put in their bodies. We want to tell you what you should put in your body. Give me a break. These people are anyway, let's continue.
That I'm an idiot for even thinking there's a list that's out there.
What was he saying you're a doofus for thinking?
That the list was going to get released, I guess. I don't know what it was.
That doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody defend the people that apparently were on that list? Because it is a real list.
There was
and
something
it is a real
about
place.
Yeah, there was a conversation that Pat was having about this list coming out, and we were talking about as a distraction to something else, and I was referring to the list being that there being a list and it coming out. He might have been thinking that I was trying to connect a distraction that was going on with a list being released. So I just said,
So when you were saying that he doesn't want that list to come out, you weren't saying that he was on that
No.
list. No. Okay. See, that was a lot of people, if they saw it out of context.
Nobody watched the fucking clip. That's why.
Right.
They just saw a headline.
They saw a very
it's the
small
anti-vax
thing.
guy again. Let's fucking
Right,
hammer him.
Right. But if someone saw that out of context, you could see how, and I thought that you were saying.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I saw it out of context. I thought that you were saying that Jimmy Kimmel was on that list. Because a lot of celebrities were on that list.
Well, the list hasn't even been released yet.
I mean, maybe he is. You know what I mean? You want to know what I can guarantee? I guarantee someone that he's friends with is on the list. Here's the deal, dude. The list, I don't care about the list. I want to know who's on video. Because trust me, those videos are out there, dude. Those videos are out there. Look into the feds going to Epstein Island and then raiding there and taking all this stuff off the island. Like, what's the right way to put this? I don't think there's any way that Epstein goes down or disappears, right? Let's just say like Epstein disappeared one way or the other, right? Like he either is dead or he got slipped out the back. I don't think there's any chance that happens if they don't know for sure that they're going to get every single copy of all of the stuff that he had. And if you think that is like some kind of tinfoil hat that he had videos on everybody, you're crazy. 100% he did. There are a dozen different ways that you can verify that for sure. He was videotaping people and he had all kinds of compromising information on people. I just don't think that they would have done, like, I guess if you believe that like he really actually was all like, I guess, and like, if he did it to himself and he's actually dead, then sure, maybe he died and they didn't get all the, all the videos and stuff. But, yeah, I don't believe that. I don't think anybody believes that. I think he either traded that for his life or he got, and they would have only done that if they knew that they could get their hands on the rest of the material. Because that's what a dead man switch is. If you professionally blackmail people, the only way you can do that for a long period of time is if you, like everyone knows that if something happens to you, it all gets released. You have to have it in order to be able to release it, right? So I want to know who's on those videos. You know what I mean? Like the list is one thing. I just think people are like, you know, they don't think that's even moderately plausible, so they won't say it out loud. But that's what I want. Show me those videos. I want to see, like, because listen, dude, I'm gonna be totally straight with you. If you got Bill Clinton out there and he's like, hey, sweetheart, why don't you give Uncle Bill a back rub? And it's some like 20-year-old girl, I'll be like, yeah, he's a scumbag, you know. But like, you know, I don't care. I already know he's a scumbag. I want to know who's into 12-year-olds. Like, I want to know which of those guys is out there like treating Epstein Island like it's Bangkok, you know? Oh yeah, earlier in my life, I just wanted to go teach English in Thailand. You're all, why'd you choose Thailand? They're all, I don't know. You're like, Bangkok, huh? They're like, yeah, Bangkok. What's in Bangkok? Just, you know, they'll hire Americans to teach English. Anything else that drew you there? You know, anything else that's completely allowed there where you might get strung up and, you know, hurt very seriously if not, you know, if people found out that you were into that stuff? No, I'm really selfless. I'm just a really selfless person. Want to do it in Bangkok. Mm-hmm. I don't believe you, dude. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. It sounds like a lie to me. I think that you are a sicko who likes children. And if there's a video of it, I want to know all of them. And that's the thing. Don't you think that if the federal investigative, like the FBI or the, like federal investigative, you know, departments got a hold of these things, like, wouldn't you think that they would want to expose those and get those people the fuck out of there, or at least show us who they are? Like, that's another reason that, you know, this whole thing is corrupt top to bottom, because whoever's protecting them, I guarantee you that they are in a position where they are expected to be protecting us. How does it protect us to have some sicko who likes to put a dog collar on a 10-year-old, keep them in power? I don't walk them out in front of society and just
But whatever list
there was one text of like one victim's
Right.
stuff. There's 100 victims.
Right.
Nobody's gotten, you know, you talk about people going to jail. No one's gotten to jail, you know, I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell was charged and in jail for trafficking to nobody.
Right. Which is
Right?
wild.
Yeah, like, look, and I said this when I was back on the show, like, that's a big fucking accusation that I wouldn't make. And I said, Jimmy, I'm glad you're not on the list. And all I'm asking is, let's have the same energy
Yeah.
for you talking about the vax and people, if you're not vaxxed, just being left to die.
Yeah.
About these people on the list, because it's fucked up. And what goes on at the top of this shit, and why people were going to Epstein's Island, and all the conspiracies about whether he was a Mossad member and Ghislaine and her father and all the weird connections. Like,
Yeah.
I'm for all corruption in all forms being taken down. I don't give a fuck if you're on the right side, on the left side, whatever. Like, expose it, and especially if you're doing crazy shit like that to kids. Like,
It
fucking.
seems like it was an intelligence operation. It seems like,
Oh, of course
if you
it
had to
was.
guess, they were compromising powerful and influential people, and they could use that to control all sorts of narratives.
Yeah.
And to make all sorts of decisions.
And that's the last part that I'm going to talk about, because I've talked about this a million times on the channel. If you really don't understand what is going on there, it's simple. It's about control. There are people in the world that have massive amounts of control over a massive amount of things. This is also why they hate Dana White's friend, whose name I won't even say on the channel, because I know they'll just take your video and go, okay? The reason they hate him is the same reason that they needed Epstein. It's not complicated, okay? If you are a person who has the ability to pull strings and affect a lot of things, they can control most people in those positions with money, okay? Most people they can control with money. If you get elected to be the governor of XYZ, they have funded your campaign because they already know that you are under their control due to money, okay? There are people who get into extremely influential positions that cannot be controlled by money, all right? Like, for whatever reason, they can't be controlled by money. So they have to figure out a way that they can control them. And there's an easy way to do that. Think about this, dude. If you're a guy who's married, who loves their wife, what would you do for your wife not to find out about a girl that you saw on the side? What would you do? Like, seriously, I'm seriously asking. Like, if you went to a conference and you met some girl and you hung out with her for 2 straight days and you guys acted like you were boyfriend, girlfriend. You took her to your hotel room, you turned her out and you were like, oh my God, that was amazing. But you did that because you were away. You never thought you'd be caught. You were just kind of like, this is a freebie because I'm away from home or whatever. And then someone came to you and they were like, I'm going to show your wife this video. Okay. This only goes for people like who like really love their wife. If that happened, like if that was me, I would do fucking anything to keep that video away from my wife. Anything. They could ask me to do almost anything within reason, obviously. You know, if they're like, go kill a kid, I'd be like, no, you know, go do anything to a kid, whatever. But it is the list of things I wouldn't do to keep that video away from Gabrielle is not big, dude. Not big at all. And I'm a person who I would consider to be probably pretty hard to move. All you need, it's a vulnerability point, right? It's something that makes you vulnerable. Now, for me, it would just be her. If the whole world found out that I had some side piece for a weekend, I would be like, yeah, I'm embarrassed, but like, whatever. But her, that's different. And the reason I bring up the public thing is because for a lot of these people, it's like, hey, how would you like the world to know that you took a 16-year-old girl with you onto the island and you dog walked her around and then you spun her around? Jesus, relax, guy. Okay. They do anything to keep that from getting out. Anything. Their life's over. Look at Weiner, dude. Look at Anthony Weiner. How many chances did that guy get because he was married to Hillary Clinton's, chief of staff? That guy would have gotten buried a long time ago. He kept on getting new opportunities. What's Anthony Weiner going to do with his life, dude? Now, again, who knows? Because of his relationship there, maybe he'll get back in. But these people are ruined, dude. Look at John Laurinaitis, okay? Vince McMahon's buddy. He's finished. He's completely finished. He goes from being like an executive at World Wrestling Federation to like done. His life's over. You have any idea what people would do to keep that from happening? They'll do anything. Money cannot stop that from happening. Like, you know what I mean? You can't buy them. Well, guess what? They're going to do anything to keep that from happening. So that's all it is. It's just control. It's just control. So you can control people with money or it's literally silver or lead, dude. Silver or lead. Do you want the money or do you want us to kill you? Is generally how that goes. But with some people, it's like, no, we need you not to be dead. We actually need you to pull those strings for us. The lead is, we'll destroy you. We'll fucking destroy you. You know? So anyway, that's what I got. Love Rogan. Love you guys. When I make it on Rogan, you guys will know that I have made it, and that'll happen sometime. I live in Austin, so won't be hard to get there once I'm invited.